It's terrific to see all of you. This is what we need to do at a great university. When we have a matter to discuss, and we have to gather together and converse. And I'm so pleased that so many of you have made the time on a nice day to spend the noon hour here. Yes, we are here to discuss a piece of legislation now before the General Assembly, which could have significant implications for our university, for UMB. And that piece of legislation, as you know, is the University of Maryland Strategic Partnership Act of 2016. I'll answer as many questions as I can about the bill's content, although I will say right at the outset, by way of apology, that I'm sure you'll have many questions that I simply cannot answer because I don't know the answer. And most importantly, after I give you some background, what I need out of this session is to know what you think. So you're here to work too. This bill is very broad in its language, and there's a considerable amount of work ahead to figure out how we would operationalize its components. But let me go back to the beginning and talk a little bit about the bill as it was introduced in the Maryland Senate on February 18th, and what's happened to the legislation since then, which is actually quite a lot. Senate Bill 1052 was sponsored last month by Senator Bill Ferguson, who represents Baltimore City's 46th district, together with 11 of his Senate colleagues. The bill calls for a unified University of Maryland with two constituent campuses, the Baltimore campus and the College Park campus. The intention of the bill is to strengthen the partnership we began with College Park 4 years ago. That partnership, which many, if not all of you are familiar with, is called Empowering the State. And frankly, it has been a boon to both institutions and to Maryland itself. Why? Because it's generated collaborative academic and research programs between our two universities. It's created joint institutes. It's accelerated our tech transfer activity, which has substantially grown university disclosures, patents, licenses, startups. Let me be very clear right at the outset. I am strongly supportive of legislation that strengthens this partnership, which Senate Bill 1052 does in fact strive to do. In fact, it says that the presidents of both campuses shall jointly develop and implement a plan that promotes alignment, cooperation, and collaboration between the College Park campus and the Baltimore campus. So by codifying this partnership, which we began 4 years ago and which has gone well, the legislation ensures that Empower, or a comparable successor, survives beyond current or future university presidents. That the partnership, in other words, would not be dependent upon the level of support it enjoys from my colleague President Lowe and me, or those who come after us, but that instead this tight alliance, which has worked so well, is written into Maryland law. And yet, when I wrote you on March 1st, I outlined those aspects of the bill that frankly were troubling to me and to the leaders of this university. I worried that the bill as written might compromise the standing which UMB needs as a full partner to act in the best interests of this university and its people. I worried at the time that it might affect our relationship with other institutions within the university system. I worried that the bill might dilute our influence and our impact in the city of Baltimore, where in a critical time we've pledged and repledged to strengthen families and communities and stimulate the local economy. Now, I'm deeply grateful that my concerns were heard by the bill sponsors in Annapolis, and that, yes, the bill has been amended in the Senate to take into account some of the potential consequences that I raised. So I'd like to go through just a few of our concerns with the bill's original provisions and where those provisions stand now. The bill originally directed the two campuses of this new University of Maryland to combine personnel systems. I was concerned that a single personnel system might not take into account UMB's unique promotion and tenure and appointment processes and special circumstances and relationships related to the clinical faculty. Now, the new iteration of Senate Bill 1052 strikes the combined personnel system and instead instructs us to promote effectiveness and efficiencies between the two campuses, including potential savings in human resources procurement and IT. I've already heard concerns from many people regarding what this exactly means and what it means in terms of jobs and job losses at both campuses. The simplest answer is nothing right now, because if this bill should pass, and it now goes to the House of Delegates for consideration, if the bill becomes law, we then have to begin studying the question of how to bring about efficiencies beyond what we do every day in asking about how we can be more efficient and effective, how we can bring about further efficiencies in our systems. So, honest, it's much too premature to even venture what these efficiencies would look like. Another original provision in the bill allowed College Park to maintain its lead status within the university system. As the state's flagship campus, College Park would have retained the ability to present its budget to the governor and receive priority in funding. Remember, I talked about standing. The Baltimore campus received no comparable opportunity. Since then, the bill has been amended so that both campuses of the University of Maryland would be able to submit their annual budget requests to the governor and discuss with the governor how the appropriations would affect their campuses and the execution of their missions. The bill establishes two centers, one on the College Park campus and one in the city of Baltimore. The University of Maryland Center for Economic and Entrepreneurship Development, UMCED, based at College Park, would provide degree and credential programs in areas of key strength for our universities: virtual and augmented reality, neurosciences, biomedical devices, data analytics, and cybersecurity. Meanwhile, the Center for Maryland Advanced Ventures would be based in Baltimore, though it's unclear whether that means the center would reside on our own campus or somewhere else in the city. The Venture Center would identify university research that's ripe for commercialization and help move it from our laboratories into the marketplace. Additional funding to the center would be used to encourage university startups to locate in Baltimore City. Now, in the bill's original provisions, UMPSEED at College Park would receive $10 million in state funds each year in perpetuity, while the Venture Center, somewhere in Baltimore, would receive $4 million annually from 2018 through 2022. The bill's language has since been amended to remove this funding cutoff date for Baltimore's Venture Center so that the center would receive $4 million a year in perpetuity. Another provision of the original bill required the chancellor, the person to whom I report, to recommend how to combine the two campuses' reporting of various indicators for the purpose of national rankings, including the reporting of our combined research dollars. The new iteration of the bill modifies this language so that now both presidents would recommend to the chancellor mechanisms that would permit this joint reporting. I mentioned earlier that I was concerned this bill might inhibit UMB's good collaborations with other University System of Maryland institutions. In fact, in my March 1st testimony before the Senate, I specifically called out UMB's close relationship with UMBC, whose research enterprise has recently seen tremendous growth. The new iteration of Senate Bill 1052 explicitly addresses such relationships, saying that nothing in the strategic partnership may prevent or restrict collaborations between the University of Maryland and its sister institutions. And finally, there's the issue of one or two presidents leading this one University of Maryland. The original bill authorized the Board of Regents to consider submitting legislation appointing a single president for both campuses once either Dr. Lowe or I stepped down as leader. This section was later deleted, and language was added reinforcing the fact that the president of each campus shall have primary responsibility for that campus. I do believe that these amendments give UMB stronger standing, more appropriate standing in this partnership, strategic partnership with College Park. And while I do have lingering concerns about the framing language of this bill, that is the long-term implications of one university with two campuses, as I said earlier, I didn't convene this town hall to share my opinions. No, in the spirit of shared governance, and I hope all of you know that I am greatly committed to shared governance, to consult with your elected bodies, the faculty senate, the staff senate, the student government, and I am consulting with them. At the same time, I wanted to have this town hall so that you could share with me and with leaders assembled here today your questions and especially your viewpoints, because your participation, your candor will help me think through our position as the bill now makes it from the Senate to the House. And when I assume I'll be granted another opportunity to testify before the legislature, and also let me make an important point, because I've alluded to it before. I need to point out that the University System of Maryland Board of Regents provides the governance and oversight of our university through the chancellor and to me. It's the Board of Regents that are our governance. And I know they care about your thinking as well. So with that, I'll open up the floor to any and all of you, listen to your comments, and answer what questions I can about the bill. I'd ask that if before your question or comment, you could state your name and your school or unit, I would appreciate that. We have a microphone in the center aisle because there are a lot of people in this room who want to hear as well, and if you could come up to the microphone, and as I say, identify yourself, I want to hear from you.
My name is Marceletta Mendoza. I will graduate in 2016 from the RN to BSN program.
Congratulations.
Thank
in
you.
advance.
And as I take my health promotion and population class, I realize that there are untapped areas within Maryland that have disparities. And one of the areas that I have noticed is Prince George's County. And I actually reside in Prince George's County. However, I own a home also in Montgomery County. I would like you to hear that I think that the partnership would be a great partnership, because there's clinicals that we're sending our young nurses out to that they need to see all the areas within Maryland to know that there are other disparities within the state of Maryland.
Thank you very much. And let me just comment that among the things that the two universities now do together is to have a heavy focus on the healthcare needs of underserved populations in Prince George's County, particularly inside the Beltway, just as an example. And working with the School of Public Health at College Park, we had them, with our input, conduct a survey of those healthcare needs, and they have, the survey has been a basis for guiding us under the leadership of our pharmacy dean, Natalie Eddington, who's sitting here, to put together a proposal to design a healthcare model that addresses population health needs, that also plays on the theme that is very critical to the University of Maryland, Baltimore, which is having us come together in an interprofessional way to learn, obviously to do research, and to provide care. Because care, as I'm sure you'll agree, and as I'm sure you're learning, is about much more than physicianship and nursing, etc. There are many people that have issues related to the social determinants of health. So even though we have the word Baltimore in our name and care very much about this city, we take our responsibilities as a statewide institution very seriously. Thank you for your point.
So I wonder if a merger with our campus in College Park would devalue our brand and take away our uniqueness as the University of Maryland, Baltimore, for others who attended here. As well, when I read the bill, I had some questions in my mind about some of the things that it implied. For example, I felt like we could already do programs and classes in collaboration with other campuses, that our programs didn't require a bill. for example, College Park could offer some of these programs that people want without merging with us. And maybe I'm mistaken in thinking that, but I just was struggling to find in this bill more than calculating research numbers, what it did besides spend a lot of money on building buildings that could be funded through other processes. And fortunately, I think since yesterday I heard that maybe some of it is being funded through other mechanisms. But is it all about, I'm trying to find what more than just the money is this bill about? Because if classes can be offered regardless of a merger, then what's the benefit to our campus? And I also want to speak for some of the staff who've been working really hard in procurement, in IT, in HR, who have scaled back and really operate extremely efficiently, that unless College Park has a lot to give in efficiencies, I feel like we're running pretty efficient here. And I don't think any of us want to step back on that, or, you can't get water from a stone. So the notion that we're going to save a lot of money when we bring this, if we brought this merger in, I think is just not true. So from you, I want to know, why don't we just say no? and even alleged criminals don't get tried 2 or 3 times over and over. The UMB Diamond is something I think people want. I understand College Park wanting to merge with us, but a lot of people want our campus. We can't just give it away. We've really grown a wonderful, great campus with a lot of meaning, and just to walk away from that in a merger is something that I'm up here talking because I don't want to see us do that.
Well, thank you for all of that. Let me... Would you like my equipment? And I'll just leave. There's so much I could respond to, but I want to take one piece. And I don't mean this is the most important piece, but you touched on one thing related to students. And our chancellor has pointed out, as he works with this bill, that there is a great deal in the bill about research. And perhaps attention to education is lacking. And Chancellor Corrett actually points out, as others have, that quite apart from our students and the College Park students, 70% of the students in the University System of Maryland have nothing to do with these 2 campuses. So there are students writ large to be concerned about. After all, we are universities. But the point you made about taking advantage of each other with regard to students, I'm very proud of the fact that that's what we've done under Empower. There's no question that that needs to grow, but students at College Park are now taking classes from our law faculty under the M-Law program. Students from College Park are coming to our laboratories. This summer, students from Baltimore will join a number of programs for the summer at College Park. That's the way we're attending to students on both campuses. It is happening. It's not that we need it to happen.
But it doesn't require a bill or a law to do. Is that correct?
Well, I think that I've made my point that it is happening.
Hi, I'm Kathy Montgomery, and I'm a chair of an academic department in the School of Nursing. And I was part of the original birth of the Strategic Alliance a number of years ago that grew to become empowering. And
Indeed you were,
yes.
And you gave good service.
And my concern is, as the previous question relates, and to your comments to that question, how and in what way is this any different than that, other than to improve the rankings of the research portfolio that would strengthen College Park? And my concern also is, as it retains its lead status as the flagship school, how and in what way, if any, does that advantage our unique infrastructure and allows for the appropriate governance for a very different campus?
Well, again, excellent points, legitimate questions, which need to be raised and which I don't have all the answers that you want for. I would, though, reiterate that my position on your behalf is that Empower, which you were a part of designing, that Empower has been such a success that, yes, I am all for codifying Empower. It should have nothing to do with the tenures of permanent low. It should be here because it's very good. It needs to be codified, stimulated, resourced beyond what it's resourced now, so that we can do great things. The title of the bill is a strategic partnership. All for a strategic partnership.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Larry Magder. I'm in the School of Medicine, Department of Epidemiology.
Hi, Larry.
I just want to repeat the points made in the last two speakers, that it's really unclear how this massive reorganization would result in the improvements in innovation and research and so on. That there's a lot of platitudes in the press, but not a lot of specific explanations about how specifically these things would be improved. But in addition to that, I want to mention the cost. There's an enormous cost to this reorganization, and my department has experienced some of that already, because we were mandated to develop this collaborative school of public health, which took an enormous amount of resources, staff resources, senior faculty resources. For 2 years, or more than 2 years, they met regularly with counterparts at College Park. And from the onset, as I understand it, this whole effort was discouraged by the accrediting body of schools of public health, because they said these kinds of collaborative schools don't work very well. And after 2 years of many, many documents and MOUs and many, many meetings, the whole process was abandoned to a great expense.
Well, you raise an important issue that others have raised. This is not free. And there has been some calculation of costs. There needs to be more calculation of costs, and that is why we want to, certainly in a strategic partnership, allow the two presidents with the steering committee, as we have now for Empower, to look critically at what it makes sense to do and what it does not make sense to do. Does it make financial sense to merge the areas that were identified? What's the cost of merging a personnel system, apart from the other issues that I've raised? What's the cost of merging IT? What's the cost of mandating partnerships in particular areas? The global idea is great, but there is a fiscal note to it.
Right, and the cultures are so different that it takes an enormous amount of work to merge them, I think.
Thank you for your points. I see leadership coming. Our Staff Senate President.
Yes, hi, I'm Clip Boyu, the President of Staff Senate. I also participated in the study that happened 4.5 years ago. Many of our staff senators also participated. I also got charged with making testimony in front of the Board of Regents as to what the Staff Senate had decided, whether they were in support of this partnership, merger, or whatever. So really what I have actually to say is more of a commentary than a question. The Staff Senate's been...
I'm not good at questions,
Yeah.
so please.
The commentary that I have is I think that a lot of the staff are still concerned. It's the same thing I reported 4.5 years ago, is whenever you're talking about a merger, people get concerned about their jobs. I think a lot of the staff see the broad picture of, they want the best is for the students, the best for the staff, the best for the faculty. But I think one of our concerns is when a merger happens, what's going to happen to us? And I want to, the Staff Senate is still debating the pluses and the minuses, and we are, as Dr. Pern said, he is discussing with us and keeping us on top of exactly what is going on. But I think it's really, really important that the staff stay on top of this bill to find out what is going on, because it will ultimately affect us in some way, good or bad. I think that's kind of hard to say at this particular point, but I encourage you to contact your legislators your legislators with your opinions. I mean, this is an important thing that staff need to not be complacent about. The last time we were very vocal, and I encourage people to be very vocal this time too.
Thank you, Colette. Our student government president.
Hi, so I'm Jeffrey Heinzel. I'm the president of the USGA here and a PhD student on our campus. And I wanted to bring up a point about something you said earlier, Dr. Perman, and then ask a question. So the first point is that, as you mentioned, 70% of the students in the system are not students at UMB or at the College Park campus. And I think that point was really poignant whenever I recently attended the student council meeting for the system, where those other students were able to give a voice in all 12 system schools to talk together about this bill. And I was really afraid that I was gonna have to go to war for UMB and fight off all the other schools, but in fact that didn't happen. And every other institution was willing to stand on our side and say that they don't think this merger is a good thing. And honestly, it was because they felt that they were going to be affected a lot more by this bill than we were, that our system is already imbalanced, that there are a ton of institutions struggling with retention, struggling with graduation rates, and that a lot of the funding that's being proposed in this bill that's empowering two already great institutions could be a lot better utilized to fulfill the functions of those other institutions and better serve those other 70% of the students in the system. The other question that I wanted to bring up is regarding the funding that this bill, the research dollars that it really wants to address. And one of those being that with the new provisions of there being two presidents, one for each campus, how would that affect federal identification in applying for budget or for funds? And are we still eligible for all of the funding sources with two different presidents as one campus? I know specifically there's a big deal with the National Science Foundation, and that you can't have more than one federal ID number in order to apply for their grants. So I wanted to know if that issue had been brought up and if it's been talked about.
No, that's, as you know, the bill calls for the fact, calls the two presidents together to try to figure out this issue about merging numbers. But I want to make two sideway comments related to that. What I'm particularly proud about with regard to empowering the state is that since we created, as a result of the last conversation about merging, since we created empowering the state, this collaboration, in fact, joint funding across the two campuses went from essentially very little to $70 million over the last 5 years. And no matter what works out with regard to the number, what this is really about for the state and for the people of the world is growing and funding our important research, whether it's at College Park or UMB. That's what the focus needs to be on. The focus needs to be on growing the number. The only other thing I'd like to say to you, Jeff, is that you make me proud, as you know you always do, because your comments on behalf of the students show UMB at its best. What you talked about were the other students. I appreciate that. Hi, please.
Hi, President Perman.
Hi.
My name is Andrea Marson. I'm a first-year student at Maryland Law. I have to say, I came here probably with views that contrast with many people in this room because I went to College Park. I was involved in student government during the first discussions of the merger that ended up in Empower Maryland. And I was thinking, especially as we transition into the Big Ten, that this would be such a wonderful thing for College Park. But now, I grew up in the suburbs of Baltimore. I came here to University of Maryland, Baltimore Law because of my commitment to Baltimore and this school's commitment to public service. So when I sat here and listened to your initial remarks and you spoke about the very real concern that Baltimore may, in the colloquial term, get shafted in terms of
You said it. I didn't.
certainly. I guess just as a College Park student, there was so much emphasis on our proximity to DC, and that was the region that was really valued as opposed to Baltimore. But I care about Baltimore. I know that we all care about Baltimore. So do you think that, I guess, a global commitment to this city is retained in the legislation?
Well, I think where the legislation has improved, first of all, thank you for your comments, counselor-to-be. Where I think the legislation has addressed my concern about this last point of yours is in taking out language sort of presaging one president. Because I think no matter what's in our respective hearts, it is sort of human nature to care about something that you see right outside your window more than something that you may not see or interact with every day. So in a very practical way, I think the authors of the legislation have heard the importance of leadership here in terms of continuing to drive a focus on our community. And it's not just, and many of you have heard me say this, why do we care so much about the community in which our campus resides, about Baltimore and West Baltimore in particular? It's because of the nature of who we are and what we do, absolutely. And it's also for selfish reasons, and I've said that to many of you. Selfish reasons in the sense that it's to everybody's advantage, our colleagues at College Park and the state, that the University of Maryland, Baltimore be a strong anchor institution. And in order to be a strong anchor institution, and I'm not being patronizing, we need to continue to attract over the years the kind of people that are in this room today, the staff and the faculty and the students. And if you don't make a better community, that's not going to happen. So we pay attention to this in a win-win way. Thank you. So now the president of our faculty senate.
So, my name is Sarah Michelle. I'm in the School of Pharmacy. I'm also the president of the Faculty Senate. And I'd like to really just reiterate some of the points that my colleagues in the Staff Senate and Student Government Organization have made. The Faculty Senate is trying to look at this bill as a body and understand sort of how it impacts us. And I think some of the comments we have heard or come up with really mirror what others have said. Initially, when we looked at the bill, we were very concerned. We felt that it looked like we were going to have a merger. And a lot of the folks in the Faculty Senate were involved in the 4 to 5 year ago talk about, putting these things together. And I think, so with the changes, I think the Faculty Senate is more, feels a bit calmer about this bill, but there's some important questions. I think it's the devil's in the details. Many of the faculty are worried about how this will affect their faculty positions. We have different rules for tenure in different schools, different compensations, the way that our jobs are defined. Some of us do a lot of research, some of us do a lot of service. And I know there's going to be, these decisions made on sort of how this works, and the faculty really are concerned about how those decisions are going to be made. I mean, there's faculty who are not tenure track, who play a role in Faculty Senate and play a big role in our university, and we don't believe there are that many of those positions at College Park. And so we'd like to ask you to really pay attention to sort of how faculty positions are defined. We have different definitions here.
Well, as you know, I cited those issues as well, even though we didn't collaborate on this. I cited those issues as well in my remarks. Again, I would respond by emphasizing the point that the title of the bill is a strategic partnership. And the ambiguities that many of you see and the uncertainties that many of you see, in my opinion, are the clash between a partnership and something else that raises those issues. And that's where attention needs to be given to the language so that we can all get a little more clarity. Please.
My name is Andrew Horn. I'm a student down at College Park, and I also work in Department of Physical Therapy over here. And
Terrific.
you know, I can tell you down in College Park, when I went to President Lowe's meeting, when he was talking about the bill, there were maybe 30 people in the room. It really was empty, and there were hardly any students. It just wasn't something that the students really cared about down there, and it seemed to have the same feeling of they're just pushing through. You know, they're trying to posture their way, push through another merger. But obviously, since I've been working down here, it really is a completely different culture in Baltimore than it is in College Park. And one of the things President Lowe said, he talked about the impact being much greater than just combining the research dollars, and that combining research dollars would open up more opportunities, which would get more funding for the states. And then he kind of brought about a line that said, we can combine and continue to prosper, or we don't combine and we could perish. And I just want to get your feel, if you really think that it's that dire of a situation. I mean, is it really that dire to where the school system needs to have these mega pairings in order to continue to fund?
Well, I suppose I need to respond rather than duck. You know, I'm sure President Lowe and I have worked very well together for these past 4 years, and I look forward to continuing that. But we are going to have differences of opinion. I don't feel death coming over us. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Perman.
Hi.
I'm Patty Hoffman. I have, I guess, 2 dogs in the show. I am the Director of Compensation and Benefits and Human Resources, so I have the human resource dog in the show. I'm also a student in the MSL program, which is I'm hiking down to College Park twice a week to attend classes.
Tell everybody what the MSL program
The MSL
is.
program is a Master of Science in Law program, and when I'm done, I'll have a degree from the University of Maryland, Carey School of Law. I won't have a degree from College Park.
So
but-
this is this is the program that I alluded to before. This is a program created by our law faculty under Empower.
Right.
And I'm glad it's serving you.
And so I go to class, and there's people from the Washington, Virginia corridor that attend these classes as well, and they're very happy to be part. And I think, so there was 2 points that I wanted to make. On my staff side, there is so much room for efficiency, and we in our Human Resources Department work hard every day to make this the best place to work. And I think
Thank you.
that
Keep going.
there are a lot of things that we've done to make sure that we want it run efficiently, and I think as being part of the HR body for I go to the University System of Maryland meetings, we're so ahead of the game in so many ways from the HR perspective, and I'm very proud to be part of that team. So I think there are opportunities for efficiencies going forward. And I see there's a lot of good to come out of some of these strategic type programs. I mean, I also went to Towson as an undergrad. I mean, to have other partnerships with different USM schools, there's nothing that stops any of that, and I think that it brings a lot of value. The other thing I wanted to say about UMB, as both a staff and member and a student, is UMB has heart. And you feel it every day, you see it everywhere that we go, and I hope we don't lose the heart that we have.
Can't say it better than that.
Hello,
Sir.
my name is Trevor Mathias. I am a current employee in the School of Medicine and an incoming student in the fall in the School of Medicine. And I'm particularly interested in the language in the bill that provides the authorization that while the professional school resides still in Baltimore City, that professional courses may be offered at a location other than Baltimore City. And I was curious about how you think that may impact the quality of the education, and if you have any thoughts on that language.
Well, I'm not clear. Thank you for your remarks. Good to see you. I'm not clear on that language because my first maybe simple-minded reaction was, what else is new? Because that's what we do. If I thought about every school at UMB, yes, we are the University of Maryland, Baltimore, but our mission is statewide. So I'm looking at our dental dean, I'm looking at our pharmacy dean, and we're in Montgomery County, and we're in Cecil County, and at College Park, as the previous commenter said, we're all over the place. So I'm not sure what we're being told to do with regard to that language. I'm glad you pointed it out, because I didn't pay attention to that.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah Bradley from
Sarah.
the Office of Development in the School of Medicine. And I'd want to say that my family represents a very collaborative University of Maryland family. I have 2 kids at system schools. I graduated from College Park, and my dad just retired as a department head at UMBC. So with
Wow.
that said, my question is, why only us? UMBC has great research opportunities and a lot to offer, as do the other schools. So I don't understand why it's just these 2 campuses that are going to be merged. And also, I want to agree with the comment that the woman just made that having experience at all of the campuses, I do think this campus has a lot of heart, and I would hate to see it diluted or compromised in addition to our commitment to West Baltimore in a merger, and I would hope that that would be something that would be considered.
Well, I thank you for your comments as I'm listening to you, and with a family member at UMBC, and you particularly mentioned UMBC, I'm sort of craving my close friend and colleague, and I mean that sincerely, Freeman Rabowski. Of course, if I gave him the floor to talk about this, I would never get it back. In all seriousness, as you heard me specifically mention UMBC, we were very concerned that the relationship with UMBC would be affected. There's language in the bill that says it's not affected, but your point is well taken. And I know that President Rabowski and others at UMBC have raised the very issue you've raised in the legislature. Why not us? Or us too? Thank you. How are you?
Hi, Dr. Perman. I'm Anthony Consoli. I serve as the campus architect here. And I want to start out by saying that I grew up near College Park, and 5 of my siblings attended College Park, and 1 still works there.
And you not?
And I not. But be that as it may, so I'm not biased against the campus in any way, but I go back to what you said about Empower. That has been a huge success. So my question is, if that has been a huge success, why add all of this money to now do this great merging? And what is actually the net benefit that one gets out of that beyond what we're already obtaining through Empower? So, I think it needs to be looked at that way. The other thing I would say is our campus is so critical to the community and to Baltimore. And we have about 130, I think, programs right now that reach out to the community.
Probably
what will
more.
happen to that? Let's not lose sight of that. I would really ask you to fight back against this. I'm glad you've made some inroads, but I don't think it's enough.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Good afternoon, President Perman. As you know, I'm Alex Nicholas.
I know. Hi, Alex.
I'm a first-year graduate student and also a resident of DC. So every day I pretty much commute here from DC to come to Baltimore for school. And I was just wondering what the economic and environmental impact would be of having this type of alliance between UMB and UMD. Because every morning I notice that it's a little bit easier to go from DC to Baltimore. But if you have students who are interested in going from Baltimore to DC, then they're on a slightly different path because it's a lot more crowded if they're deciding to drive. And if there's going to be more inclusion of students from different areas, I'm just wondering if the Senate in the future will try and address some of these concerns.
Well, as long as I've gotten to know you, Alex, you raise interesting points that, frankly, have been raised in another way. I mean, I think questions have often been raised in terms of our collaborative efforts with College Park and they with us. that, the distance does get in the way in terms of transportation alternatives. But I thought what I heard you say was starting to address the environmental impact of that. And that's an interesting thought, which I'll keep in mind as I gather my thoughts. So thank you.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
My name is Tyler, and I'm a student reporter for UMBC student paper, so
Ah.
you might know what my question is going to be about. But I just want to start.
As long as you're a student, because I said this was not for media inquiries, but you're a student.
Student-based, I promise. I just want to ask, do you know when the talks of this bill were being, I guess, talked and you were being contacted, do you know whether they considered including UMBC at all, or was this always from the beginning just between the University of Baltimore and College Park?
Well, first of all, I don't want to leave the impression that I was part of crafting the bill in any way, and I'm not making a disparaging remark there. So when this was being talked about, it did not include me. And nor did it need to. I just want to make that fact clear. To the best of my knowledge, the answer to your question is no, to the best of my knowledge. It's been a discussion, at least to this point, about the two universities we're talking about, UMCP and UMB.
Okay, thank you.
Hi.
Hi there. My name is Karina Mandel, and one of the things I'm proud of is being a UMB Core Scholar, which helps the students in West Baltimore get access.
Say what that is in case
Absolutely.
people still don't know.
For those who might not have heard about it, it's University of Maryland Baltimore's program that helps West Baltimore students get access to more STEM education through mentoring, through access to science labs, through different recreational activities, and it's been truly wonderful. I love the kids.
Thank you for doing it, Karina.
Absolutely. Thank you for having the program. So I'm very proud of University of Maryland Baltimore and all the work that this campus does, but in the spirit of self-reflection and holding us accountable as an anchor institution, which I've spoken about before on different town halls, rather than looking at the mergers between College Park and our campus, I'd be interested to hear about our campus and UMB Biopark. So recently I heard, and maybe, I don't know if anyone else has, about some of the protests that have been going on. And in light of what happened in spring, there's been deep feelings that we as a school have not committed to offering the jobs that we promised to West Baltimore. So I'd like to hear your comments about that, and how can we hold ourselves accountable to the commitment that we promised to our neighbors as the anchor institution in Baltimore.
As soon as I get done here, Karina, I'm going over to our Community Engagement Center, which we created at the western edge of the biopark shortly after the issues of last April. And if you'd visit with us on Wednesdays, as well as some in the community that perhaps don't know about it, we have HR personnel every Wednesday in the CEC. We call it Workforce Wednesdays, where we have people who help others in the community get jobs and are also made aware of jobs at UMB. So we've taken HR and brought it down. It's taking the gown to the town. And can we do more? Should we do more? No matter what the topic is, I would say yes and yes. But I would say back to you that we are, in fact, working on workforce development with our neighbors to the west. So thank you.
Thank you.
Ken?
Dr. Perman, my name is Ken Fonstock. I'm the administrator in the Department of Physiology in the School of Medicine. I have nothing for you. I think everybody's covered everything. But I will, something needs to be said.
That's what you always say to me.
Something needs to be said, okay? First of all, I applaud the turnout tonight or today for this, and I'm sure
So,
that more people could
Not
be
more
here.
than I applauded.
Not, all
This
right.
is very,
I'm not going to upstage you. You can applaud more than me. Okay? But I applaud the turnout here. And again, the people here are telling you what's going on. And again, I think what you need, I think you've got enough information now to go back and represent the University of Maryland. And again, I speak for myself and maybe people in this room and the rest of the campus that I am proud to have you as the president of this University of Maryland, Baltimore. So go do your stuff.
I'm glad he did that at the end, because I'm done. Thank you all very much. I got what I needed.